don't know.
Yeah, they're just like,
Rick
oh,
seems
Rick's
to be
got it.
handling it.
He got it. It's fine.
Before we start, just watching this, it just occurred to me that we've interviewed most of these people on this
Oh, yeah?
podcast. Karen and I did back in the day. And
Amazing.
just want to remind people, you can hear me and Karen and a couple other guests at times interview just about all these early Walking Dead actors. If you go to podcastica.com and search on any of them, Stephen Yun, Norman Reedus, Andrew Lincoln, Sarah Wayne Callies, Lauren Cohan, Scott Wilson, a couple times with him, John Bernthal, Chandler Riggs, Laurie Holden, Jeffrey DeMunn, Irony Singleton, Emily Kinney, they're all there. So
Amazing.
if you're curious, and that was back when these episodes were airing, or season one, some of them a little bit later, but you can hear them talk about what they were thinking back then.
Incredible. What a back catalogue. Check it out.
Yeah. So with that said, let's get into this week's episode, season 2, episode 2, Bloodletting. How was it to watch?
Yeah, good. Slower than the season opener. Quite a tense episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's better watching it knowing what comes next because it feels like more of a payoff.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, to think about next week in particular with Otis and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to talk about that, actually.
Right?
I'm excited to talk about that. I felt anxious watching this, and it's just such a shitty situation for everybody. Mm-hmm. And Rick in particular, he's so strung out and he's just so depleted emotionally, and with his blood, he's getting all pale and wan. He's had a rough week. He
is not having a good day at all.
So what's your first point?
We meet Maggie and the Greens, which is such an important part of the show going forward. There's this amazing shot where they all run to the front porch and it's kind of set up. I wonder if it is a still from the comic. I'd need to go back and check. But you see them all, Patricia, Jimmy, Beth, Herschel, and Maggie all kind of come and look out at Rick running towards them with Carl in his arms. And it's just so nice that they're here. Maggie feels like such an integral part of the show. It feels like the pieces are really coming into place now that she's there. We also get Maggie and Glenn's first meet, which is ironic because she's carrying a baseball bat, which I'd completely forgotten about.
I don't think she even noticed him, but he's like, oh my God.
He's like, hello, farmer's daughter. Like,
that's right.
He says, like, this chick came out of nowhere, like Zorro on a horse. And I'm like, oh, he's smitten. Lauren Cohan's accent as well made me laugh a little bit. She's gone very southern in this one. It doesn't always land. In real life, she has this amazing literal mid-Atlantic accent that's kind of like Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek. It's very English, American English. But I did laugh when she's like, "There's been an accident." That like just really cracked me up. I was like, "Is there been an accident?" But she's fantastic. She just storms onto the scene in the horse and kicks some ass, and I just love that. I feel like it's a nice uptick in kind of some of the women characters, which at this point are Carol's bereft, Andrea's very depressed, and Laurie's being quite judgmental.
It's like, I'll save the day. You're finding these women annoying? Here comes Maggie.
Yeah, Maggie comes in. She's like, there's been an accident. Like, all these women are crap. Like, yeah.
Get on this horse, Glenn.
Get on this horse, Glenn. But no, I loved that. And I loved the efficiency of the Greens, like, altogether. I love Patricia. I'd forgotten about Patricia. I love her. Her accent is wild. She's so southern, so beautiful. That is the actress who plays her, Jane McNeil. That's her first role, like her first film or TV role. And since then,
she went on to do something.
Ozark.
Something in particular. Oh, was it Ozark?
Yeah, she was in Ozark. She's in loads of things. Because I went and looked it up because I assumed she was like a character actor who'd been in loads of things, but nope. Her first role, and she's just really, I don't know, there's something about her that I find really appealing. And I really wished Rick and Shane would stop yelling at her. It's like she's trying to help. Stop it. And Herschel as well appears just kind of perfectly peak moral, philosophical, pragmatic Herschel. And it's interesting because his character undergoes a bit of a a breakdown and a softening throughout the series. So it's wonderful to see him in this kind of stiff shirt collars, shirt sleeves, veterinarian, dealing with this very stressful situation. So yeah, I just really loved that we're at the farm. The greens are all here. The greens assemble, I've written in my notes. Yeah, that really pleased me.
And they're all, right now, they're just helpful and heroic, and that's it. No complications yet. There will be some of those to come for sure. But yeah, it just seems like here's a place you can rest. I happen to be a surgeon. Okay, I'm a veterinarian, but still, I'm very confident. I know exactly what needs to be done. My daughter's on this horse with her bat. Another bat, you know, we've talked, because wasn't there already a bat? Yeah, I think, who's the guy that left with his family? I've already forgotten his name. Morales. He was whacking Zeds with a bat.
He was good at it.
We got to find out when Walking Dead 100 came out to see if they were slyly nodding to this already. In fact, Kirkman may have already known it was coming because he's writing on the show at this point and just stuck those in there.
He fully is. And I think we get hints of what's to come as well, which is interesting. So there's this scene where, so every week I like to look at the timeline and tell you where we are at. And the earliest event in the timeline on the Walking Dead Wikia is the founding of the Green Farm, which Herschel says in this episode is 160 years previously. And he talks about epidemics and what they are for humankind, how all we've got left is each other, but there is a chance of a cure. And he draws the analogy with the AIDS epidemic, which I thought was quite interesting. But you can see he is very determined that there is a cure, even when Rick says, you know, we've been to the CDC and that's a dead end.
Because he seems pretty like straightforwardly just solid right now, but little do we know that his wife and stepson are in that barn waiting to be cured.
So I like that they're laying the groundwork there for what's to come, and Herschel's point of view on this, and his kind of unwavering belief that a cure is possible and better things will come. And
he's got a point to think about it in terms of epidemics, although I don't know, does he realize that there's only like 10% of humanity left? It's a little different this time. You know,
I feel like he's not really ventured beyond like the FEMA shelter so much.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't know, or maybe he's just delusional.
Yeah,
or a little bit of both.
Or he's just,
you know,
unwavering in his belief, I suppose, which is something that is true about Herschel and his religious beliefs. But at this point, he's also unwavering in his belief in the possibility of a cure.
I'm just saying, if you're going to say, you know, we've had this before, AIDS, I'm like, well, it wasn't quite the same given that most of humanity's now gone, you know, but yeah.
Oh, Herschel, you have so much left to learn. So that, I believe, is my first point. I'm props to Otis as well. He is trying to do right. He's clearly really upset about what he did.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that. You see him saying to Patricia, like, you know, I didn't see him till he was on the ground.
Yeah.
And he treats Rick's Colt Python with respect. He says, that's a fine weapon, Rick. I'll get it back to you.
Yeah, that's an iconic
I'd forgotten.
gun. He took it, and we know he doesn't come back, so I'm guessing Shane must bring it back.
I think that is a good guess.
I love seeing the farm too. For me, it just brings back memories because I spent so many hours out there in front of the farm on the field at night. We weren't allowed to go up onto the balcony or anything. None of the zombies, because the farm owners were religious and they agreed to let the Walking Dead use the farmhouse as long as no zombies ever went up into the house.
As long as nobody went in the barn and found the other zombies.
The barn was built for the show.
That's cool. So tell us where was it?
It was off the beaten path. You know, it almost kind of makes sense that it was untouched because you wouldn't know it was there unless you knew how to get to it. It was one of those type places. You don't just pass by it on the highway or anything. So,
and it's down in Georgia.
Yeah, it's, you know, near where all the Walking Dead filming locations are. But we were taken there on a shuttles full of zombies.
That's incredible.
And seeing Patricia, I remember chewing on her leg, except it was a dummy Patricia.
Oh.
I'm getting a little too into it and getting like dirt in my mouth.
Ew.
I know.
Yuck.
But I think, because I was on the finale, I don't want to spend too much time talking about my experience until we get to the finale episode, unless there's something related that, makes sense. But I'll mention the plan is to have Grace on with us for the finale. She's the one who helped me get on the show, and she was there with me for those 4 days when we filmed the finale. She was a zombie too. And she ended up on the Podcastica Network. She started, with our Game of Thrones podcast, Game of Microphones, and then went on to do Under the Comic Covers with Mr. Blog, aka Eric. So I hope that works out, because she hasn't been on in a long time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing. I talked to her a little bit about it. She's like, I don't know if I'll remember much, and I'm like, yeah, me neither. Maybe we can jog each other's memories about it.
I've missed hearing her. I used to love Under the Comic Covers.
Oh yeah, I miss her too. But I was happy she, at least for now, said she'll do it. So hopefully she will.
That's brilliant.
Maggie, I remember talking with Stephen Yun on this podcast about being excited to meet Maggie before Lauren Cohan was even cast, but we'd read the comics and we're like, that's coming up, right? Yeah.
Oh, cute.
So that's cool. The Walking Dead wiki says that Maggie was 22 in this episode and 35 by the Walking Dead finale, and then 40 or 41 in Dead City. So I guess it's a 5-year time jump, which I guess lines up with Herschel's age in Dead City. So isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
22 to 41.
Lauren Cohan does look young in this episode. Like, she looks, I don't know, she just looks, God, she looks amazing now, but she does look younger here. Like, you can see that she's still in her 20s, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think she's actually 41 now. So so that means she was actually older than Maggie back then by a few years. I didn't calculate it out exactly, but probably like mid to late 20s.
Oh man, what a journey Maggie's got to go on. I was thinking about that, her, Rick, Carol and Daryl making it all the way to the end.
Yeah, she's like, one of the top icons, enough to get her own spinoff, afterwards.
I'm so glad they got her back.
Herschel, I did many panels with Scott Wilson. He was always a gentleman. He was a little hard of hearing, so sometimes on those panels the sound got echoey and it was kind of hard to communicate, but he was always super nice, and he'd give compliments sometimes and stuff.
I remember they used to pair him up with David Morrissey a lot.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, it's cool. I liked it. They always seem to have a cool little relationship, despite the fact things
They're
ended
both
the way they
just
did.
Cool dudes, and it was always fun to put people who, like, I'd put Noah in the Revolving Door and the guy who played Nicholas that screwed him over.
No.
They were both super cool dudes, and I would do panels with them all the time,
I remember the Nicholas dude being cool. He was good at improv,
cool,
I feel like. Yeah,
very nice. And I would always try to make sure the audience realized what a cool guy he was, because they would come in with a chip on their shoulder about what a douchebag Nicholas was,
Nicholas.
Nicholas, yeah. And then since we're on the subject of the Greens, Herschel says the epidemic took his wife and stepson. I looked it up. His wife was Annette Green. That's his second wife, who's Beth's mom. His first wife was Josephine, who was Maggie's mom, and she died somehow. So that's why he said stepson, because that's Annette's son that she brought into the marriage, Sean. And Maggie, I guess, looks at photos of her family in Dead City, and Sean's in one of those. So anyway, cool. All right, I'm going to talk about creating drama without villains.
Interesting.
Because we covered The Walking Dead for so long, and we'd be like, yeah, they just keep rinsing and repeating. They bring in a villain, and then, they have trouble, and then they get to the mid-season finale, and then the stakes get worse, and then they defeat him at the end of the season or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even started that yet. You know,
Nope.
it's like
We've had no villains.
the governor's the first one, Gareth and the termites, Joe and the claimers, Negan and the saviors, Alpha and Beta and the whisperers, Pope and the reapers. And then I guess you could say Pamela and Lance in the Commonwealth, maybe a little more complicated there, but yeah. But I feel like Shane kind of forestalled that pattern because he's got these conflicting drives. He's not a straight up villain at all. He's like Rick's brother. He loves him, but he also wants to lead and loves Lori.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all the villains had depth to one degree or another, but maybe none were quite as gray area as Shane, you know?
I would agree with that because we see Shane in a much deeper way, I think, from the beginning and the evolution into what he becomes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think with an actor like Bernthal, you get so much as well, so much quality. But I mean, all the actors they had playing villains were pretty good in The Walking Dead. That's
They
not to
were.
criticize the rest of them. Just Bernthal in particular had a way of making you like. I found Shane incredibly sympathetic in this episode,
Oh, yeah.
despite everything he's done. I was like, oh
Everything,
man, he's
yeah.
really there for Rick.
Yeah, they have these intimate scenes where he's wiping the blood off of his face
Oh,
and touching,
beautiful.
trying to comfort him and telling him he would break his legs if he tries to leave, which knowing Shane, he actually would. So you better not.
Yeah, he really would. I wouldn't fuck with him. Like, he will break your legs.
But so I think it's, I usually resist the idea of black and white villains, or I don't know. I mean, that can be fun sometimes, but to me, it's usually more interesting when it's complicated like this and it's gray area and there's different forces at play and stuff. But that said, without a clear antagonist and not a lot of zombies, who I would say were the main antagonists in Walking Dead season 1, I feel like a lot of this season feels a bit like a hand-wringing soap opera to me. I think the best episodes of this season, in my opinion, we'll see if that holds during the rewatch, but from what I remember, are later when those bad guys come into it, in Nebraska,
Nebraska.
That episode was so good. And when Shane becomes more clearly an antagonist at the end. And I wonder if maybe the writers learned from that, like, oh yeah, the show got really exciting when we had a bad guy, and that's why they started that pattern, I don't know. It was in the comic too. It was following the comic, so I don't know.
I remember this season feeling like slow, enjoyable, but slow.
Yeah.
And then at the end being like, holy fuck, what just happened in 3
Right.
episodes? Like, what the hell? So yeah.
Yeah.
I think that there's something to that.
And so looking what they're trying to do right now, they don't have a bad guy, but it's an action horror show. So they have to create tension and drama. And so how they do it now is a lot of accidents, bad decisions, and hand wringing over those decisions and talking it over incessantly. So Carl is accidentally shot and they need to get medical supplies from the local zombie infested high school before he dies. T-Dog accidentally cuts himself and gets infected. He's maybe going to go into sepsis if he doesn't get antibiotics, having paranoid delusions from it. Sophia, who's a child, is too scared to follow Rick's directions, so gets lost and, as we learn, zombified. That's kind of like an accident. Just a kid.
Accident.
And lots of, like I said, hand-wringing. Rick fretting over whether he should have left Sophia there in the first place. Rick fretting to Shane about whether it was his fault that Carl got shot. He says, Carl got shot because I couldn't cut bait. You said it. Call it. Head back. I guess he's saying that Shane had suggested giving up on Sophia already. I don't
think
that.
Shane had said call it for today. And then he was like, let's head back. And Rick's like, no, we got to stay out a bit longer.
Right. And so now he's questioning himself. He is questioning whether he should have brought Carl along with him. He's fretting about whether he should leave Carl's side to go tell Lori what happened. And that's when Shane says he'll break his legs. It's just, I feel like it can be a bit padded out and soap opera-ish to just have Rick just constantly and having conversations with everybody about whether he did the right thing. And my favorite piece of drama, though, in this episode was when they found out that Herschel was a veterinarian. I just love that moment.
It's so funny. It shouldn't be funny, but it's really funny.
It's like, oh my God.
The way they all play it.
It's funny, but it's also kind of great. Like she, Lori says, "You're in completely in over your head, aren't you?" And he says, "Ma'am, aren't we all?" Just such a
Mm,
succinct way to address that. It's like, fuck yeah, you
it so
do
is.
what you can with what you have.
Oh, I loved it. That moment where Rick's like, "Sweetheart, we can't be shopping for surgeons." And then he's like, what's her line? You've seen combat? No, a combat medic? And he's like, no, a veterinarian. Like, you can tell he doesn't want to tell them either. He's like,
Yeah.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask this question. So, yep,
But
I'm a vet. Yep,
I
yep.
mean, I guess in part because we know how it turns out, but I'm just like,
Mhm.
hey, he seems confident. If a pig got shot and you needed to get the fragments out, I mean, seems like you'd have to have pretty much the same skill.
I was having a discussion with somebody about this last week, and I think in some ways, these are the kind of discussions I have on my downtime. Um, a vet would be almost more use because a vet, when you're a vet, you have to study so many different nervous systems, physiologies. Like you have to know so much more in some ways than medics with specific interests. And I'm sure I heard from so my uncle is a medical doctor, and he once said to me, like, one of the best places to collapse is the vets because they were all really good at first aid, whereas like around a GP or a surgeon, they're not going to know what to
Hmm.
do. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So part of me was
They
like, yeah,
lucked
it would be
out.
ideal. There's your kid on the table, like, oh, good, you've done this on a sheepdog. But he pulls it off. He manages. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, does what he needs to do. We know he does.
Hmm.
Spoilers. And then Rick's fretting about whether to go look for Shane when he's not back quickly, even though he's like looks like a ghost because he's lost so much blood. And
Hasn't been drinking his orange juice, spilled it all over the table. Absolute nightmare.
Lori says, if he said he'll be back, he will. And she ends up being right. Then he does whatever it takes to get back. But
Hmm.
I'm a little bit like maybe send someone else. Like just to check,
Hmm.
Lori. Like, aren't you a little worried? Like it's the zombie apocalypse, so you never know.
It's an interesting choice.
And then, I mean, because the show needs to create drama and they don't have any just straight up antagonists, it ends up the kids aren't faring so well. Sophia's lost, as far as they know, and Carl's shot. And I am a bit like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Protect your kids. What's wrong with
Someone
you
called
people?
social services.
Yeah. Rick says, "Is that why I got out of the hospital, found my family for it to end here like this? Is kind of sick joke." And I was like, well, season 8 is the sick joke.
Yep.
It's coming.
Oh, you've got time, buddy. Just not as much time as you should. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Um, and then later there's more conflict, not in this episode, but from Herschel being resistant to letting them stay at the farm, which
Hmm.
reminds me of Fear the Walking Dead seasons 4 through 8. But I guess at this point it wasn't beaten to death, that concept.
No.
And so anyway, I don't know. I want to hear from listeners and you if you feel this way, who can make this seem better to me. It's not awful, but it just feels a little bit like, okay, they're upset about the accidents and the decisions, and it's not my favorite.
I think here's what I'll say. I think you have a choice when you're writing and consuming a show like this. And one of the things that's standing out to me about season 1 and 2 so far is that the characters aren't superheroes yet. They're not super capable. They're not super confident. And in some ways, they don't reach full superhero. But I would say by seasons 9 onwards, we're looking at characters who have developed skills that they would not have thought they could have at this stage in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And as it's almost like a D&D campaign, as the characters level up, the scenarios and the danger that they find themselves in has to level up, and that generally involves a conflict with a big bad or a society that isn't what it seems. And I think this is us kind of treading water a little bit this season because we've done season 1, which is like what happens when the real world as we know it is shattered by a zombie apocalypse. And we haven't quite reached the stage of here's a bad guy who keeps zombie heads in his tank and people are
Yeah.
really starting to lose the plot. We're kind of at that in-between stage and we're so short in the timeline. Like Rick's only been awake for 8 days. So like, but because the seasons are long and the time is expanded, I think you're right in that it does feel frustrating with some of this and it does feel manufactured and a bit meandering. But I do wonder sometimes if this is what the zombie apocalypse would actually be like. It would just be all of us sitting being like, did we make the right decision? I don't know. Should I stay? Should I go? Rather than
Yeah.
let's send a bunch of burning Zeds into a quarry and claim back our home. Like, I think it's interesting, and I think it's a fair criticism of this season that it's quite slow and soap-like and often quite boring. But I do have a soft spot for some of these storylines that made the characters still feel really fallible. Like it felt like anyone could die at any moment, which we really lost. After Glenn and Abraham, I feel like we really lost that. It was a sense of like, well, with some notable exceptions, season 8, etc. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of with you, but I'm not. I think I'm less frustrated by it. I think I'm like, okay, well, we'll see where this takes us.
Yeah, I might be hitting that a little too hard. I mean, I enjoyed watching the episode, and I felt, I mean, as I've said many times, if a show can make me feel something, that I appreciate that. And even if it's like, oh crap, like Carl, I think especially the first time I saw this, I was like, I knew he was going to make it through because I read the comic, but I was still just like, that poor little kid on
He's
that
so
little bed.
little.
Yeah, I can't believe he's 38 years old now, Chandler Riggs. I can't. It's crazy. No, he's
He
24
just passed
though.
40. He's doing so well.
He is 24.
Yeah, in this scene, he's 24. No, he's obviously not. Do you know if it was a real Chandler that he was running with?
I don't know.
Or if it was a rubber Chandler. I couldn't decide because I was like, oh, that must have been really annoying to do all that running, but it looks pretty real.
Yeah, I think
but
it was
then I was
real.
like, maybe it's not. So poor Chandler had a whole day of just being like, um, I mean, the other point, I'll segue into one of my other points is I've been thinking a lot about Rick, primarily because I've missed him and Rick and Michonne is coming up. And I'm thinking about Rick's journey as a character because a lot of Rick's development is about him struggling with his mental health and his inability to accept leadership while at the same time always running to help. And I thought this episode was super valuable in looking at Rick because the thing he keeps repeating to Shane is a little girl goes missing, you go look for her. And it's like that's his moral code. He knows the things he's learned as a police officer, which is like you look for little girls that go missing, you fight the bad guys, people like Merle Dixon, you punish, these kind of things. And this is the season, I think, where Rick becomes really untethered from that morality and starts to not even knowingly question it. But one of the things he's called out a lot on in this episode is running away. And I don't think Rick runs away because he is a coward, because he runs often into difficult or dangerous situations and is often foolhardy.
No, he's not a coward at all.
But I'm going to say, I think he might be a coward with emotions because I think he might run away from things that are emotionally scary to him. And I think running away from when his wife and child need him more and trying to solve something else is about his inability to fix something that is terrifying to him, which is the idea that he can't save his son. So what can he do? He can go and save other people to help his son. He can go and fix other things.
You're talking in season 1.
Season 2, in this episode.
I don't get that. He's like, where the fuck is Shane with the medicine? My kid's gonna die. Let's go get it. Yeah, but
before that, he tries to run and get Laurie and leave Carl on his own as well.
Yeah,
and I think
Laurie,
there's part of him to Laurie, but I do think there's part of him that can't sit still with difficult situations and is like, I have to go and do stuff. And it's always noble stuff. It's not like he's like, oh, I have to go to the store and like buy beer while Carl's asleep, if that's okay. But I think it's interesting that there's this real like itchiness to him that he can't be present. And that's something that Laurie, we see a little bit in the flashback at the start, is her feeling like Rick isn't authentic with her or fully there or fully emotional with her or able to be like, you're being a bitch right now. And I'm like, Laurie, come to our podcast. We have no problem telling you when you're being a bitch. But I thought it was an interesting character flaw of Rick's that he is, in a sense, flighty, though he's always running towards other things that are helpful or good. He's not always good at just sitting still and being there for the people who need him. And that's maybe where his difficulties with Laurie have come from in their marriage. And Sarah Wayne Callies and Scott Wilson as Herschel and John Bernthal as Shane all call him out on this in this episode and are like, you need to be here with your wife, you need to be here with your kid. You will not forgive yourself if you're not there when something happens.
I don't know. I don't know if I fully buy into this because when he's going to leave his wife, it's not because he's not comfortable being with his wife. It's because he wants to go get the medicine and the medical supplies for his son, you know? But when he's going to leave Carl the first time, it's because he wants to go to Lori and tell her. So to me, I don't know if that plays into a narrative that he's like hiding from the truth or whatever.
I think he's keeping busy to avoid sitting with difficult feelings, which we all do.
Yeah, I mean, I think he wants to do something because he feels helpless, but I don't know if I see that. I mean, honestly, I do think, dude, don't leave your son alone right now to go tell Lori. She'll find out. That,
yeah,
of everything you said, that seems like the one that's the most crazy. And Shane says pretty much the same thing, but I can't, anything else. I don't know. I mean, it does remind me of later on when Lori's trying to talk to him about their marriage and he's like, I got stuff and things to do or whatever he says, right?
Busy Lori,
so
doing stuff. Thanks.
But we haven't seen enough of, because we only hear Lori's, well, we heard Rick's side of it in season 1. It opened with him talking to Shane about basically saying, I can't do anything right. You know, she says I don't talk enough, but when I do, she doesn't like what I have to say. And now we hear her side of it saying he's just so damn reasonable. It bothers me even more. And I wish he would just yell at me. And so I feel like it's hard to know. To me, that I'm not going to say that's a flaw of Rick's and not Lori's without having seen it. You know, it could be fully her fault or both of them. Most likely it's both of them. You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't think Laurie's like blameless in any of this at all, but I thought it was quite pronounced rewatching this episode that it's something he gets called out on a lot, is this sort of, and I think the first instance we see of it is in season 1 when he's reunited with Carl and Laurie but wants to go and get Merle, and Laurie's like, are you fucking kidding me? And he's like, yeah. And it's there, he's not wrong. He did leave Merle on the roof like they all did, but at the same time I think Rick is so selfless that sometimes it is almost selfish, if that makes sense. Like he's so like, I'll go and do this, I'll go and do that, that he's not actually thinking about the people around him, like his wife and kid who might need him at that point. And I think that's a really interesting attribute. I won't call it a flaw, but an attribute for a hero to have is this almost moral flightiness of like, no, I'll go and do this thing instead, I'll go and fix this thing. And I think that enforced having to stay there by Carl to give him blood is a nice plot device.
Yeah,
to kind of address that.
The thing with Merle, yeah, it's one of those Walking Dead conundrums that can be debated, right? Because you're leaving your wife and child in a dangerous world, but also you just consigned this guy to death by chaining him to the roof, and so he's maybe sort of your responsibility. So I don't think it's a tough call, in my opinion. I mean, he's also a total asshole, so maybe it's a little bit easy.
Yeah, it's not an easy call, but Rick will always pick the option that is like going to fix something rather than staying put and fixing something. And I find that quite interesting.
I don't know if there's anything to fix. I mean, he because you're framing it as if he's going to help Merle because he can't handle what's happening at the camp and needs to run away. But I don't. No, I'm saying
that's the first. That's the first instance of him. Like his sight is always on the next thing to fix or something away from what he's doing. Like he will never. What makes Rick so interesting and so good of a person is he will never just sit and enjoy the thing that he has. Like he'll never just turn up and be like, this is good, I'm not gonna put myself in more danger. Like he's always, it's that mentality of a little girl goes missing, you go look for her. Like it's that his moral code is so strict of like, you go and do this thing, you take action, you do this thing. And in this episode that's challenged by like 3 different people, and no matter what his motivation is, and it's almost always good with Rick at this point, like we haven't reached dark Rick yet, sometimes he just needs to be there and be present, and he's called out on that in this episode.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll disagree on this because I think I can think of many situations where he's sitting there having heart-to-heart discussions with the people that he cares about in his life. And he
later on.
Well, in this season, he's in the barn with Carl having a talk with him. I think he gives him the gun and has some kind of a talk.
Yeah, it's not that he never has those moments. That would be ludicrous. It's more that
I feel like that's evidence that he's present with the people he cares about, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think he becomes more present, but at this point he's in panic mode. And I think it is we all have our tendencies of how we deal with things, of like burying our heads in the sand. For me, I go and sleep. It's not a great habit. If I'm stressed, I'll go and have a nap. It really doesn't help anyone but myself. But Rick struggles with that in this episode, and I thought that was an interesting flaw to play with, or interesting challenge to play with for a character.
Yeah, okay. We'll have to disagree on that one.
We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, let's keep an eye on that for sure. It'd be interesting to see if more stuff like that comes up, where it feels like he's avoiding fixing something that needs to be in the present and going off and doing something else instead.
Or is doing something to try and fix the present thing, but what he's doing is taking him far away when he could actually be useful being there.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. What's next for me? The flashback. I've already talked a little bit about it. One of the few pre-ZA flashbacks in the show, which we talked about recently when we were covering the Daryl show, and we saw Isabel in Paris, which was freaking awesome.
That was a really cool one.
That was the best flashback. Aside from that, we saw, I think later this season, Atlanta being blown up while they're all stuck in traffic, but that's not really pre-ZA because
it's sort of mid, isn't it?
In progress. Yeah. We see one of Michonne, but it's kind of more like a nightmare than a flashback. She's with her son and her boyfriend and his friend in their apartment, but then the two guys turn into armless Zeds, which, kind of shows how she got her pets, I guess. And then we see Negan cheating on his wife who had cancer, which I think that's the only other legit pre-ZA flashback that I can think of is the Negan stuff.
In main show.
Even in the other ones, although I could probably be forgetting something. I don't know.
No. Yeah, I think you're correct, actually.
So that makes this one really weird in hindsight because they didn't really do any more except for the Negan thing. And I wonder if they were thinking this was a device that they would use.
I always felt if Lost hadn't used it so much, they might have used it more.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was a cool thing about Lost at the start was that kind of thing. But at this point, we're 2010 and Lost finished
in 2010.
Had Lost finished yet? Yeah, it finished in 2010. So I wonder if they were
Just
maybe
finished.
Let's not overuse this.
Yeah, I mean, it would have made a lot of sense in this show to show how people were in civilized society, and then shown how they either changed or didn't post-apocalypse. That would have been a really cool device. But I think you're absolutely right that Lost had just been such a big cultural thing and had done that to death, and so it would have been crazy for Walking Dead. I don't know if that's why Walking Dead didn't do it, but I could see that.
So why do you think they did it for this? What did it give us?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I had a few different thoughts. I was thinking at first to reiterate that Lori and Rick's marriage was on shaky ground because that's how the series opened, with Rick talking to Shane about it. And here Lori's telling her friend that they were fighting, and so the focus on the troubles in their marriage. And I think it's a lot about Rick or Lori not being happy with Rick. And maybe the show wants us to feel like things are shaky and unstable. But then in the rest of this episode, they actually seem pretty solid together. And we saw in season 1, they recommitted to each other and after the ZA. And in this episode, Lori's holding his hand as she kneels next to Carl. So
that's a cute scene.
It feels like tragedy is bringing them closer together. Then I thought maybe it had more to do, the flashback, with just showing the similarity of Carl just having gotten shot and then Rick having been shot before. And in the flashback, Shane shows up and tells Lori And then she tells Carl, and later in this episode, Rick has to tell Lori that Carl was shot. But then I'm like, well, yeah, but so what? Like, why do we need a whole flashback just to be reminded of that?
I wondered as well if it was about reminding us of Shane's closeness to the family prior to the affair with Laurie.
Yeah, it was.
Like,
That's
he,
what
he
Kirkman
genuinely
said.
is, he's like the uncle. Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for setting me up there. I don't know if any of you know this, but I am Robert Kirkman. I'm not Robert Kirkman. I think it was about, I think it confirmed for me that Laurie and Shane were not having an affair prior to.
Really?
Yeah. They didn't, their body language was not.
They seem pretty
people who-
familiar to me.
Yeah, but in the way that I mean, so canonically, Laurie is, I think, 2 or 3 years younger than Rick, and they were all at the same high school. And
Okay.
I think it's to do with Rick's brother Jeff or Jeffrey. This is like weird comic book lore. I think she was in the same high school year as Jeffrey, and they met at like a party when Rick was home from college one summer or something. So I think it's just she says in her monologue or in her conversation with her friend, they got married so young. And I would imagine when you get married so young, you would know your partner's best friend pretty well, especially if he's like an uncle to your kid. So yeah, I don't know. I think if they'd wanted to hint that there was an affair already going on, something would have been said to the friend, or there would have been something in the dialogue that would have hinted at it.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yes. Yeah. Because they were just sort of close to each other. And yeah, I'm not just trying to say you're wrong. I just want, I just want to know.
I'm like, I'll take that one. That's a one for me.
Yeah,
please.
that's a good point. Yeah, because they were close enough together that no one would hear, and so the fact that the writers forwent that opportunity probably means that they weren't.
Yeah. Because that was a perfect point to have like Laurie like start to say like, yeah, there was a lot that could have happened there. But I thought for me, it was the thing that struck me the second time watching it was the how do I tell my son his father's been shot, thinking about how do I tell my wife her son's been shot.
Mm-hmm. And the way that Chandler Riggs played it, because you don't hear what they're saying, but he cries and then just shakes his head because she's like, it's going to be okay, all right, son, or whatever she's saying. He's so good.
I think he's so good. Like, okay, yeah, the more I watch this, the more I'm like, Chandler Riggs, you got bad press.
Well, like, I just think he wasn't as good later on, maybe. I don't know. I mean, he wasn't, he was always fine, but I think he was better in the first couple seasons.
When he's just little. He's so little.
I don't know.
Little boy.
So we'll see. We'll see what we think. But here's what Kirkman said in Entertainment Weekly. He said, a lot of people think of Shane as a clear villain and that he did a bad thing. But if you really analyze that situation, he's a good guy and has done the right thing at every turn. I don't know. That's a little debatable. But because he's done that, and like in the shower at the or whatever, not the shower. He was fine in the shower. But at the CDC with Lori, not so great.
Yeah.
But that's an understatement. But he goes on, because he's done that and it's not working out for him, it's driving him crazy. So we really wanted to show that he's a tragic figure much more than a villainous figure. It's just a series of unfortunate situations that have led him to slowly losing himself in this world. Popping back in time and showing his concern for Rick and how he cares for Lori and Carl, I thought would be a good thing to do. So it sounds like from what he's saying, it was purely about just showing that Shane is a complex, tragic figure, not a straight up villain, and that he cares for Carl before, what happens next week.
Well, they'd done a lot to put Shane firmly in the bad books. So I do wonder if they hadn't shown this, would we have been like, yeah, Shane, you're just trying to get in Laurie's pants, whatever. So I think it was a smart choice to do that. Yeah.
And then on the flashback, though, one interesting thing to me that it shows about Rick and Laurie's marriage troubles is she's saying to her friend, I guess for honest, he wasn't the asshole. He was trying hard to be reasonable. It just pushed my buttons all the more. And she says she wishes Rick would just tell her she's being a bitch if that's what she's being. And she's mad that he doesn't yell at her. And that makes it make a little more sense to me why she went with Shane so quickly, because she just wasn't feeling that passion for Rick anymore. She doesn't know for sure if she's in love with him. And she craved someone who would just kind of lay into her and yell at her, which Shane had no trouble doing,
No. Yeah, he's very different in that way. Like she says, there's a point in this episode where she says, like, he's like you that way. And I think there are ways in which they're very like one another. But I think, Shane runs hot, whereas I think Rick the way things end up with him and Laurie is really tragic because Rick is unable to kind of talk to
Engage.
her at all,
Yeah.
engage at all. Like he just shuts off, and that's really frustrating.
hmm And I mean, we'll see how it is, but I remember thinking at that time I might have been the same way. Like, look, I've had enough for you for now. I need a little bit of space, and we'll deal with this when we can. And then she's gone, and then it's like, oh fuck, I fucked up.
I
I
know.
didn't have a chance
It's
to
really
deal with it,
sad.
And then Ghost Lori came,
Mm.
and they went to therapy, and it was great.
Yeah. Ghost therapy. It's super effective.
But what do you think about her wanting that?
I can understand it.
hmm
Like I find it very frustrating. I'm the one who runs hot. I'm the one who's like yelling and gets pissed off about stuff. And
Peter's your Rick.
oh, 100%. There's nothing worse than when the other person is being reasonable
I
and you're like,
understand. I fucking
can
hate
you
you. Well, I
just
can understand why you'd feel that way.
yeah, I'm like, fucking go off me. Like I just yeah,
That's
it's one of
funny.
those things where I was like, oh Laurie, yeah, I feel you
Mm,
sometimes because it's frustrating when you're feeling really het up about something and really like angry and the person beside you is just like, yeah, that's rough. Yeah, yeah, it's not good, but we'll get through it. And I'm like, I don't I always think about there was this meme, I'm sure I've spoken about this on the podcast before. There's this meme on Tumblr about a sandwich, a woman who dropped her sandwich, and she said, I just phoned my boyfriend to tell him I dropped my sandwich, and he said, are you at the feelings or solutions part of it? And I think the feelings are important. And if you're with somebody who's very like calm and solution based,
yeah,
sometimes the feelings bit doesn't get heard, and that's really hard. And
sure.
I think Laurie's come up against that in this, and it's
But
sad.
it's a little, I mean, there's a little bit of a wrinkle on it though, because I hear what you're saying. Like
Mhm.
sometimes you just want someone to feel what you're feeling with you, but this is more
Yeah.
of wanting someone to push back against you too. You know what I
I can
mean?
understand
Yeah, yeah,
that.
for
Like
sure.
I push it when people
hmm
are, I don't know. I was raised with quite like not shouty parents, but in quite a verbally expressive house. So sometimes I mistake if someone's not yelling at me, that means they don't care.
hmm
Or if someone's not engaging with me or getting upset, then that means they don't care. And I can kind of
mm.
see that from Laurie being like, oh, he's shutting off, he doesn't give a shit. This is depressing kind of thing. So no, I'm with her. I can see that. I
Well,
think it's a
I think
fine
that's
line.
fucking ridiculous, Lucy. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God.
Just
It's
kidding.
hard though, because like, you've then on the other hand, you've got fucking Carol and Ed's all
Oh yeah.
shit and shouting and
It's so hard
abusiveness,
to
and
find the
that's
right place to be with people and
mhm.
you know.
It's really difficult. But yeah, no, I'm kind of with Lauren that I can understand why that would be frustrating,
Yeah.
to be
I
honest.
can too, actually. I can see her being there with Rick, and just like you said, and he's just like, okay, dear, I totally understand. And you're like, fuck you.
Yeah,
Where are you in
yeah,
there?
yeah. Where are you? And you can see that in this episode. She's they're both feeling a lot. Like Rick's not exactly sitting there like,
Oh
well, this will be
no.
fine.
Yeah, that's
Like
the
he's not
thing.
at all.
He's got his
Um,
heart right out there outside his chest.
oh, 100%. But you can see that Laurie's the hot-headed one who'll be like, I'm sorry, you're a fucking vet. Whereas Rick's the one
Mm.
who's like, we just kind of have to, you know. I guess we don't really get a fair read on Rick because he collapses like 2 minutes into that conversation. But you can see the dynamic there of,
Yeah.
I don't know, she's the one who maybe is more of a firecracker.
hmm But I mean, I'm going to keep everything you said in mind, or as much of it as I can remember with my horrible memory as we go forward. Because from what I'm thinking right now, I feel like Rick does become the kind of person who's just like, fuck everyone else except for the people I care the most about. And he's not like that
Yeah.
now, but I think that's what he
No.
becomes, you know?
Yeah, definitely. He's never good at regulating it. That's the problem
No.
with Rick. He's all one thing or the other. There's no point of him that's like, maybe this with a little bit of that. He's
Yeah.
either full Rick or Farmer Rick. Like, there's no in between.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right. What's next for you?
Daryl had some great lines. I miss when they
hmm
kind of wrote sassy Daryl, when they made him all quiet and unforthcoming. I'm just having a look through. I should have really used a highlighter on these. Um, there's a great scene in the woods where Andrea and Carol have like the most awkward exchange ever, where Carol's like, "Oh, I just hope that she doesn't end up like Amy,"
What
and
an
I'm like,
idiot.
"Ooh."
Come on.
And Carol's like, "Oh, it's the worst thing I ever said," and I'm like, "I mean, you'll probably say worse, but it is quite bad."
It is bad. And Andrea's not happy about it. You could tell. She's
Yeah. I
pissed.
mean, it's been like what, 3 days?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Great, thanks for bringing that up." But then Daryl comes in with
Awkward.
like what's it he comes in with? Basically, he's like, "You're damn right," something, and then he's like, "Because we're going to find that little girl," and it's like a shift because you think he's going to be like, "Yeah, this is bullshit
You
because we're
guys are
not going to
idiots.
find her."
Well, Carol says we're hoping, and I'm hoping and praying, and he goes, "It's a waste of time, all this hoping and praying. We're gonna
That's
locate
it,
that
yeah.
little girl. She's gonna be just fine. Am I the only one Zen around here?" Which is a pretty funny
So
thing for him
good.
to say.
Good Lord.
Good Lord.
Good Lord.
So I thought, like, I mean, he's very on point in this episode. He's, for the most part, he's got a positive outlook. He's quick thinking, quick acting, adaptable, efficient, solutions oriented. Like, I'm definitely seeing Daryl in a new light after my full experience with The Walking Dead and the Daryl Show, coming back to this. But this moment here, I mean, it was a little harsh for Carol to say that to Carol after she just said she was hoping and praying, but then to put right in there, like, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And then let's do something about it. That's what he's about. Action, taking action. And so I felt like maybe if I was Carol, that actually might make me feel pretty good. Even though Daryl turns out to be so wrong. But in this moment,
I know, for Daryl, man. It's just not good. He just while Maggie's yelling, "Excellent," he's like, "We don't know this girl," which I just found hilarious the way he shouts it.
oh yeah. That was the one area that I thought was maybe a little questionable. Are you talking about when Maggie comes along?
Yeah.
Yeah, and says, "Hey, yeah, are you Lori? Rick's Carl's been shot. You need to come with me." And Daryl's like, "Oh, you can't get on that horse. We don't know this girl." And I was sort of wondering, like, I guess later on in the series, after they met so many assholes, that would make a lot of sense. And maybe it just shows that Daryl has met a lot of assholes in his life already. But in this moment, it seemed like, oh yeah, I better go with this woman. Right?
I think
maybe it's because we know Maggie, so that's why,
It's Daryl misusing his street smarts. Like, it's the situation where like he doesn't need to be using them. But in this, it was the way he delivered the line though was class. I really enjoyed that.
I think it's because we know Maggie. That's a lot of it too. We're like, what are you talking about, Daryl? That's Maggie.
Whereas if this was season 9, we'd be like, "Damn right, you shouldn't get on that horse. Who's that?" They could have got that information under torture.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Leah, look at Leah.
Yeah, exactly. He then does an amazing shut up and arrow through the head to his Zed, which I just loved.
I love that because that Zed had just given Andrea maybe one of the worst moments of her entire life. And then he sits up and goes, ugh, and Daryl doesn't even hardly look at it. Just goes, "Shut up," whip, and takes care of it like that.
It's like the way I imagine, like, I don't know, Nico and Bodhi saying "shut up" to each other as siblings. Just like, "Shut up," like, without shooting dead. One another through the head with arrows.
But they do say "you're dead"
like,
a lot. All the time.
You say "you're dead." And then finally, I feel like he had another great line. Oh, of course, Merle got the clap on occasion. And he's going through Merle's little traveling pharmacy. Oh, that was I remember that being one of the first moments where I really warmed to Daryl. Was that he's like throwing his like some kick-ass painkillers to Glenn, and he's like, and these amazing. They're not generic either. Like, they're properly branded. Merle got clap on occasion. Like, it's such a good little scene. It just made me really warm towards Daryl. I thought it was